Did you hear that? There's hope. And that's when I knew I had to start reframing not only the way I was thinking about my diagnosis, but about everything. I had to focus on that hope and my need to prove those interns wrong and to remind the doctors why they do what they do. In those first days, my best friend Abby reminded me of one of my favorite movies, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. In the story, a now grown-up Alice finds herself again in Wonderland, and this time she learns from the Mad Hatter that she's there to save Wonderland from the Red Queen by slaying the Jabberwocky, a huge dragon-like creature. Alice doesn't believe she is capable of such a feat, despite the Hatter's urging, but eventually he helps her to find her muchness, or her true self, to believe in the impossible, as many as 6 things before breakfast, and she slays the beast. Abby reminded me that I just had to find my muchness. And so I began my journey to slay my Jabberwocky, cancer. The day I was diagnosed, I had a procedure called paracentesis to withdraw 4 liters of fluid that had accumulated in my abdomen. The bloating, which both my primary doctor and gynecologist had told me was air, and that I should be eating more fiber and drinking more water. Within a week of diagnosis, I was having surgery to place the port in my chest that would deliver the dreaded chemotherapy. I was ordered on a liquid diet to avoid a complete blockage that would require emergency surgery. I learned that my ovaries were enlarged to the size of grapefruits, even though a month earlier I had been told at my annual physical that they were normal in size. In 2 weeks, I required another paracentesis to eliminate another 3.5 liters of fluid from my abdomen. And within a month, I had my first chemo treatment to begin shrinking the tumor in preparation for surgery. From June to August of last year, I underwent chemo every other week for 3 days at a time. By early August, and with a lot of convincing by my wonderful oncologists, my chemo nurse Amy, and my gynecologist at university, my surgeon finally agreed to schedule my surgery. And believe me, he took a whole lot of convincing, later admitting that he didn't think I would ever be ready for surgery. Clearly, he'd never dealt with a feisty redhead before. So I had a break from chemo to prepare my body for surgery and a short regimen of high-dose radiation to further shrink the tumor and to help prevent recurrence. By mid-October, I was admitted for surgery. Once they cut me open, not only did they remove a portion of my colon, but they also performed a radical hysterectomy, as my once enlarged ovaries had twisted around themselves several times and one had ruptured. The surgery required a 10-day stay at university. And on my second follow-up visit 2 weeks later, I was readmitted for several days after my reports of pain and a CAT scan revealed a pelvic abscess, a common complication for my type of surgery. This resulted in a very long and painful 8 weeks of having a drain in my pelvis. Then by mid-January, the drain was removed, and I was able to resume my chemo. You've never seen anyone more excited to get back to chemo than me. It meant that I was finally doing something again to fight this nightmare. Through all of it, my main priority has been to maintain a positive outlook and to never give up hope. Not only is that attitude good for my own state of mind and healing, but it's way easier on the caregivers, Mom, Abby, and Stephen. Sometimes I think it's the caregivers that have it harder, and the last thing they need is a whiny bad patient. Now, don't get me wrong, it was not always easy to keep that attitude. Sometimes it was a constant struggle and effort from minute to minute, but gradually it lasted longer, and I just needed a refresher from day to day, and eventually week to week until it became a habit. I learned not to beat myself up when I was having a bad day, and I learned that the bad moments always pass eventually. I am incredibly lucky that I am surrounded by an amazing support circle that did everything to make my journey easier, including a jar of happy thoughts my friends put together, so I could pull out a happy memory whenever I needed a pick-me-up. I have a dear friend, Cheryl, who was finishing her chemo as I was beginning and helped guide me through the whole process, offering the best advice. She taught me that while it wouldn't get easier, I would learn what would make me feel better, when to rest, what to eat, to take my meds, to ask for help, to pray, and to have a short pity party whenever I needed it. My support circle has supported me physically, mentally, and financially, never accepting the idea of my defeat, and never allowing me to entertain that idea either. and always helping to renew my positive attitude whenever necessary. You see, I could focus on the year that I've had to spend away from the children I work with as a physical therapist. Or I could find the joy in the mountain of get well pictures my coworkers have helped them to send throughout my recovery. I could choose to only see the scars that now span my abdomen, or I could appreciate how sore my stomach is these days from all the laughing that I do. I could complain about how hard the liquid diet was and how incredibly difficult it is to gain your weight back on a liquid diet, but then I wouldn't be able to laugh with people about how Abby fed me shots of Boost and Ensure, pretending we were in a bar when I was really curled up in her recliner. Abby has a way of encouraging me to do stuff I don't want to. She's good with the tough love stuff. Mom and Stephen always joke how she can get away with saying things to spark my fight that no one else would dare say to me. I could mourn the loss of friends who faded out of my life because the reality of cancer is just too much for some people, or because they didn't understand that I didn't have the energy to maintain my end of the friendship for a while. But instead, I focused on the deeper connections I've made with my close friends and family, the more open expression of love and appreciation for those same people, and for the outpouring of support I've received from this community, support from people I don't even know but want to help me in this fight. I could think about all the weeks and months when all I could do was lay on the couch, but it was during those times that I found my muchness, like Alice, and in those days the fight inside me grew and grew. I could still be nursing hurt feelings from when acquaintances ask inappropriate questions like, do they think after all this that you're really going to make it? Or what do you do all day long? You can't just be laying around. But then I wouldn't have all that good material for when I decide to write that what not to say to people fighting cancer book. I could dread going to chemo every other week, but with Amy, Carrie, and Sue Ella as my chemo nurses, how could I? They actually make me look forward to my appointments. We have a lot of laughs during those 4 to 5 hour visits, and Amy has become my best advocate who cheers me on unfailingly. I could worry about my lack of income for almost a year, but somehow I'm making it through. I'm sure Anthropology is wondering where all my online orders are, though. I could complain about chemo leaving me with feet that are numb and suddenly wouldn't let me balance in my beloved collection of heels, but instead I got to add some cute new flats to my wardrobe. I could be frustrated with the extreme fatigue that prevents me from my normal activities, but Stephen took over the cleaning, shopping, and laundry without missing a beat and never with a complaint. My friends delivered countless meals and even showed up without being asked to decorate my house for Halloween and Christmas, knowing how much I love decorating for those holidays and how depressed I would be without it. I could cry about all the times I avoided mirrors because I just didn't recognize the terribly thin, sick girls staring back at me. But Steve and Abby and Mom always made a point to remind me that I was pretty no matter what. I could still be angry with God, but instead I saw the opportunity to renew my trust and faith in Him. It's hard to be angry when I've actually become thankful for my cancer. For all the bad, so much more good has come from it. Not only a new perspective on life for me, but for all the people close to me. I'm thankful for the kindness that I find everywhere these days, a greater appreciation for the little things. I'm still getting chemo every other week for 3 days at a time, most recently being Tuesday through Thursday of this week. But a month and a half ago, I had my first PET scan, and it was clean.
Amen.
I will continue to fight for more clean scans for as long as I have to. If cancer has taught me anything, it's about having the right outlook on life. You quickly learn not to sweat the small stuff. You learn what and who is important and what's not, to celebrate the tiniest of accomplishments, to relish the good days and know that the bad ones will pass, that the miniature matters, and that love is in the details. The last thing I ever want to do is to waste my cancer. Something good has to come from it. It has and continues to. I've learned that once you start focusing on all the positive things in life, when you look for the good, and more importantly, contribute to the good as much as you can, that more good finds you, and that's a wonderful feeling. I also learned to listen to my body. I was diagnosed at 38 years old, had none of the risk factors, ate a healthy diet and exercised, and genetic testing revealed I had no genetic link. Every specialist I have seen has said some version of the same thing. We don't know why you have this. There's not a case like yours in the textbooks. When you know something's wrong, keep asking questions until you get some answers, even if your doctor tells you everything is okay. Get a second opinion, a third opinion, whatever it takes. And if you're lucky enough to have to fight this fight, give it all you've got and don't miss the lessons along the way. If I can slay the Jabberwocky, so can you. You just have to find your muchness. Now let's go walk and destroy cancer.
Woo!
Again, we are here to celebrate our survivors. We are here to remember our loved ones. And we are here to fight back, exactly like Melanie said, to fight back against this. Thank you so much for your personal experience. Chris, would you like to come to the stage?